What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, we are continuing Orctober with a very awesome excerpt. Here we have Roboute Guilliman, Lord of Ultramar, taking on a massive orc war boss. So without further ado, let's dive into this carnage. The Throne of Destruction towered over everything else in the cavern. The orcs had constructed it by piling up ordnance. Missiles, rockets, bombs, shells, they all formed a giant heap. It was a mound more than a throne, a mountain of crawling, burning, agonizing death. The Orc Emperor sat at the peak. There was no design to the hill, though Guilliman could see how the ruling greenskin had shaped the pile to conform to its hulk. It was huge, bloated with muscle and savage greed. It was twice the size of any orc Guilliman had seen on Thoas. It was as broad as a dreadnought, and it wore a crown made of deadly shells. Its armor was a piston-driven framework of iron and steam. Pipes higher than the monster's head spewed flame. Strapped to its legs and its arms were more shells. Its hide, a mass of scars. The seat of empire, Guilliman thought. This orc existed at what it believed to be a pinnacle. It exalted itself in its fury. Guilliman stared at a grotesque being ruling by a gutted empire from the top of a construct of ruin. It had to be terminated. It needed to be. The orc stood when it saw Guilliman. It opened its maw wide and roared a challenge. It took 2 ponderous steps down from its throne. Guilliman butchered his way through the last of the greenskins between him and this huge orc. The surrounding horde screamed at him, but the lesser orcs did not follow as he started to climb the hill. He half expected the shells to rot and shift, but surprisingly, the heap was stable. It would have to be, Guilliman thought, for not to collapse under the weight of the beast. The ordnance appeared to have been stacked at random. Perhaps it had been, but the casings of the shells and bombs and rockets all welded to each other. The mountain was an act of insanity, Guilliman thought, or maybe even faith. The perfect exemplar of the equivalence of 2 worlds. As he climbed, he removed the Hand of Dominion. He could not use it on this throne, for if he struck the weapons, the gauntlet's energy field would disrupt matter in all of their casings. He would unleash what the orcs had failed to do. He would not complete the former civilization's madness. He maglocked the Hand of Dominion to his belt and took up the Gladius and Candor once again. Precision, he thought. That was the only route to victory here. Every blow needs to be placed. There could be no error. The Orc Emperor charged down the slope. It wielded an immense chain hammer. The head of the weapon was a huge lump in mass. Multiple chains whirled around it. Guilliman eyed the weapon and pictured what it could do to the wrong target with that much power behind its blows. Practical. Strategic sacrifice will be necessary. Guilliman leapt up to meet his enemy. They clashed at the midpoint of the mountain. The orc swung the hammer one-handed, and Guilliman fired at the weapon's head. The shells of the Arburator punched craters into the dense metal. One of the chains broke and flew off, spinning scythe of teeth. It sliced into the orc's face, opening a diagonal wound from its left eye to the right of its lower jaw. The orc bellowed and smashed its left fist against Guilliman's flank, pinning him against the head of the hammer. He gasped. It was like being crushed between walls, and pain sparked along his frame. He had expected it, though, and he already adjusted his strike, adding more force to compensate for the shock of the wound. Candor slashed through the framework of the orc's armor and the tendons of his left arm. The limb sagged, and the beast snarled. With a brutish form of a warrior's pride, it hit back with its wounded arm. Instead of blocking, Guilliman absorbed the blow. The servo motors of his armor whined in protest of the speed of the movement, and still the orc knocked him off of his feet. He fell against the weapons. Welding gave way, and now the casings did shift. The orc reached him in a single stride, and the next move in the battle became clear. Guilliman delayed rising, and the orc did what he wished. It used both hands to raise the hammer high over its head. It was preparing a killing blow. A blow that cost it seconds. Guilliman shoved himself up and to the right, up the slope and scattering the explosives. Shells rolled down the slope, a foretaste of a dreadful avalanche. The hammer came down and plunged deep into the throne. Shells exploded. Fire and shrapnel sprayed Guilliman and the Emperor Ork. Hunched, the Ork yanked at the wedged hammer. But Guilliman leapt. Level with the Ork's head, he plunged Incandor into the beast's right eye. It howled and jerked its head back, stumbling a step down the slope and swinging the hammer wildly. Contingency, chance, luck. The perversities of war at the cancer of any rational strategy. They served the Ork in this moment, for the hammer struck Guilliman as he landed. It hit him on the shoulder and drove him down into the mound. His pauldron cracked wide, his spine ignited with agony. The surface gave way completely behind his right leg, and he had no leverage now. He put all of his weight on his left and lunged out of the depression just as the Ork recovered its balance and aimed another blow at him. Guilliman had no choice. This time he could not let the blow connect. He sidestepped, and the hammer dislodged more shells. A tremor shook the mound, and the shock of each impact spread through the construct. The welds were the weak point, and that broke first. Guilliman and the Ork stood on a leviathan that was slowly walking to rolling life. Guilliman moved into the Ork's blind side, reaching in to strike with Incandor. He held the Arbiter ready, but pulled the trigger only when he was sure of the shell's trajectory. He fired into the central mass of the beast, blowing away its armor plating and stitching explosions across the monster's chest. But that too was consumed by its hate for him to notice. The Ork wound up for another two-handed strike with the hammer, this time from the side. Seeing the arc from the coming blow, its force and its consequences all in a microsecond. Do not absorb this blow. Do not let it strike the mound. Guilliman charged the Ork, ramming his shoulders into its torso. The beast was too huge to topple, but now he was close for the Ork to hit him with the hammer. It dropped the weapon and grabbed Guilliman with its claws. It lifted him from the ground, squeezing with a strength that could powder granite. It lifted him high and bellowed in triumph, the vice of absolute brutish strength tightening around his torso. Even with its primitive armor damaged, the Ork had the power to crush him in seconds. The monster knew it had won. It held him like a trophy, savoring the moment of destruction. These were seconds during the Ork did not move, did not evade. They were the seconds Guilliman needed, the seconds he had foreseen. His arms were free, and he brought up the Arbiter and fired a sustained burst into the Ork's face. The remaining eye burst, the jaw disintegrated, and Guilliman fired into the maw and neck, and it exploded. The skull drooped, and the crown of shells fell. Guilliman did not stop. He kept firing, straight down through its head. The shells stopped by the huge mass of the body, detonating in the Ork and never reaching the stacked ordnance. The Ork's grip loosened, but it held him for almost 5 seconds after he had already reduced its head into a mass of bone fragments. At last, the arms fell away. Guilliman landed on the shells, and the mound shifted again. The huge body fell. It rolled and slid down the slope. And there you have it, guys. An amazing battle between brute strength and the analysis mind of a Primarch. So really amazing to see Guilliman actually come out on top for once. Usually when you read about Guilliman's battles, he's losing or he's about to die and he gets saved. He didn't do very good against Angron. He didn't do very good against Fulgrim. When he came back to life in the 41st millennium, he fought against Magnus. He almost didn't win that, but thankfully with the help of the Sisters of Silence, he didn't die. And he died technically against Mortarion during the Godblight stuff. But due to the power of the Emperor, he was resurrected. So yeah, it's nice to see Guilliman take a W for once. But anyway, this is not the end of Primarchs fighting against Orcs. Next time I will give you a reading where Vulcan takes on the Beast. So again guys, stay subscribed for that. More Orctober is sure to come as we are nearing the end of October and getting closer to Hollow Week. A week of just epic horror stories on the 40K universe. But for now, it'd be nice if you guys could like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.
refuse to put my freedom first in any situation.